Hi everyone, welcome back to another camouflage test video. This time I'm yet again testing PhantomLeaf, going to be comparing it to Flecktarn this time. The last time I tested this was in a semi-arid sagebrush environment against multicam and green moss or Atex FG. This time we are in a different environment. As you can see, this is actually the same place that I did a previous camouflage test, the JSDF Camouflage, except so right now if you look behind me, it is the middle of fall. However, we're actually doing this in two sessions. The first session is pretty much the same as when I did that JSDF camouflage in the summer, and of course the second time is in the fall. So we're going to kind of see how this works in a bunch of different varied environments. The reason that we were doing this in two sessions is because we actually noticed, so you had a combat shirt prior to this, of course you can see now, and this is SDK Weber again, joined yet again by him. Link to his channel on a bunch of hand loading content will be in the description. But you now have a smock on instead.
Yeah, I just picked up this smock, another one of Leo Kohler. Same thing. This is PhantomLeaf WASP 2, Z2, Z2, PhantomLeaf Brown, PhantomLeaf Arid. This is the smock, and it is loaded with pockets. I think there's about 15 pockets in here, inside, outside pockets. But one of the reasons I wanted this is to cover up when I'm not wearing the plate carrier.
Yeah, I am going to leave that footage in, as I said, in the early summer. It's still some good tests there, but it's very noticeable, the solid color from the combat shirt, hence why we wanted to do this again here and make it correct. The last thing about this camouflage test is I'm not going to be wearing this hat. I've mentioned in the past, I've found that, you know, these types of hats with the straight lines and all that, they don't blend in very well. Instead, I'm going to be using this helmet, my old helmet that I have set up with a Flecktarn cover and a bunch of just some leaves, and should work pretty well. But we're going to go do that now, and as usual, this is kind of Brent inspired, so we're going to hide out there. Every time that we are out there in a scene or an area, we always have sight line to the camera, so we're not completely just in cover. So you will be able to see us, but we'll try to be concealed. So with that, let's get started.
Yeah, you have the ability to see us. You may not see us, but we're not going to be absolutely hidden behind trees or something like that. And we're also not using any additional 3D camouflage elements. I'm not going to be using some natural materials on this. So you have a chance to, number one, evaluate the camouflage, and you have a chance to spot us.
Yeah, good clarification. All right, with that, let's actually get started here.
Yeah, let's go. Is that better? So how did you say it was tan?
So that concludes for the actual camouflage test. Now for our actual thoughts on this camouflage, I'm going to go ahead and start with the Flecktarn. Then we'll talk about the PhantomLeaf, and then just kind of a bit about the environment as well, and some interesting things with how the season changed there. But as I said, starting with this, it was pretty interesting. I was expecting this to kind of blend in really well, but it was actually a little bit on the too dark side. Especially if you look when I'm in the shadows, this surprisingly looked almost like a black blob. This worked pretty well when I was in either direct or pretty bright sunlight, and if there was even just a little bit of shadows though, it kind of didn't, I wouldn't say it was the biggest issue, but you know, between having it too light or too dark, having it slightly too dark is better, but that was noticeable. As a little caveat, I did mention earlier that this is the same environment where I tested the JSDF camouflage. I'm not sure how that would look because we didn't test it in this season, but at least for this, a little bit on the dark side. Now, talking about the PhantomLeaf, we'll go ahead and start with how it did in the summer, so those first scenes. And for me, I actually think that it was a little bit too tan. Now the caveat there, again, is the combat shirt that you were wearing. Yep. That solid color really did give it away a lot. But if you kind of blot out or just ignore that spot, it did work really well in that one sagebrush sort of area. Not as semi-arid as the previous time we did it, but that area worked pretty well. But if you look when we were in the more green area, I personally think that didn't do too well.
Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the things I did when I was watching that footage, I kind of put a couple fingers over that brown blob.
Yep.
And it's brown, and there's lots of things brown out there in the environment, but there's nothing out in any environment that is an absolutely solid, uniform, solid color. If it's a solid color, it's not going to work that well.
Yep.
You know, the other thing I wanted to talk about and mention about this PhantomLeaf, this is the Z2 or Z2 PhantomLeaf brown color, and it wasn't designed, it was never designed for use in a forested environment. Mm-hmm. But it amazes me actually how well it did. You know, there's obviously plenty of brown tones, and there is green interspersed in this pattern that can make it work really, really well in that environment as well. So I was really happy with that. A couple of things that we can never forget about camo in the first place is, number one, motion's the dead giveaway. When we were doing the video, there were some times when you actually asked me, can you wave?
Yeah, because I cut that out, but I was trying to verify that he was in frame a few times, and I wasn't able to find him, even though I saw where he moved. I couldn't spot him in the frame.
Yeah, and so and then when I waved, oh, there he is. Mm-hmm. You could see it. So that is an absolute way to prove that motion's the dead giveaway. Another thing that I had heard when you talked about how dark things are, one of the videos I watched by some PhantomLeaf folks, and actually from Germany, I had to turn on my translations, but they talked about things being too dark, and one of the things they said, I'm not 100% convinced it's absolutely correct, but you cannot make something lighter, your camouflage, you can't make it lighter, you can only make it darker. And I don't know, their thing was, their point was you can make it wet to then make it look darker. Of course, one of the problems with making yourself wet, if you have a cold environment, then you put yourself up for hypothermia. So anyway, one point I wanted to make was to think of I call it the inverted chameleon. You know what your camouflage looks like, and you should learn where it works well and where it doesn't work well.
Right.
Well, look at that environment, and if you need to take up some cover in that environment, and hopefully you have time, then choose that type of cover where your camouflage is going to do its best, or where it's going to do better. And I think that's pretty important also.
Yeah, even in a general forested environment like we were in, there was always some places there where this actually did work. And there was, even then, some places where this didn't work. Going back to this really quick, I do think this would probably work better in, say, a pine forest or something where it's darker. We were in more of like an aspen sort of forest where there's a lot more underbrush and a lot more greenery. I mean, granted it is fall, but still, there's a lot more brushes and it's a lot lighter colored. So, we'll see. I've seen other camo tests where Flecktarn did a lot better. I would say it didn't do as well as I was expecting in this video, but it's still not bad. And as for the PhantomLeaf, not Flecktarn, that turned out really well. Of course, as you said, inverted chameleon, just know kind of your immediate environment in that little microcosm, and as I said, even something like this will work out. You can get away with some pretty, not totally outlandish, but you can go with a camo pattern that's not perfectly suited for the environment and still make it work.
And one of the ways to make it work is those 3D elements.
Yeah.
We purposely didn't use 3D elements in today's test, or in the previous test, but that is certainly a way to improve your camouflage, is to use those 3D elements, taking some of the branches, some of the leaves, those sort of things, and adding it to your uniform. It can make tremendous differences, especially to break up these linear edges that you're seeing. That's pretty important.
So that covers it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions or comments or about this camo or anything else below. Otherwise, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Take care.